Hi and welcome to careerright.com. We are pleased to bring before you the part 1 of video on C and data structures interview questions and answers. So let's begin. Question number 1. What is the purpose of main function? The main function is the first function to start a program. It is a user-defined function except the name and can be called recursively. The main function invokes other functions within it. The execution of a program always starts with the main function. Next, what are header files? What are their uses? Header files are also called as library files. They carry two important things: the definitions and prototypes of functions being used in a program. For example, stdio.h is a header file that contains definition and prototypes of commands like printf and scanf. Next, is it possible to create your own header files? Yes, it is possible to create a customized header file. To do this, you just need to include the function prototypes that you want to use in your program in it, and use the #include directive followed by the name of your header file. Next, name the files that are automatically opened when a C file is executed. The files which are automatically opened when a C file is executed are standard input, standard output, and standard error. Next, why are all header files not declared in every C program? Using all header files in every program increases the overall file size, which in turn increases the load of the program. Hence, it is not advisable. Each header file contains different function definitions and prototypes. So, only those header files that contain the functions required by you are declared in the program. Next, why is a semicolon put at the end of every program statement? It is done for parsing, process and compilation of the code. A semicolon acts as a delimiter. This tells the compiler where each statement ends and can proceed to divide the statement into smaller elements for checking the syntax. Next, how do you access the values within an array? Arrays contain a number of elements depending on the size you assigned to it during variable declaration. Each element is assigned a number from 0 to number of elements -1. To assign or retrieve the value of a particular element, refer to the element number. For example, if you have a declaration that says int marks 6, then you have 6 accessible elements, namely marks 0, marks 1, marks 2, marks 3, marks 4 and marks 5. What happens when AND operator is used in a program code? When this operator is used, all conditions specified must be true before the action can be carried out. If any of the conditions is false, the whole statement is false. Differentiate between the expression ++a and a++. With ++a, the increment on variable a takes place first and the resulting value is used. This is called as prefix increment. With a++, the current value of the variable will be used in an operation and then it increments. This is called as postfix increment. Define recursion in C. The process of calling a function by itself is known as recursion. Recursion is generally used when the result of the current function call is the input to the successive call of itself. For example, factorial of a digit. What does static variable mean in C? Static is an access qualifier that limits the scope but causes the variable to exist for the lifetime of the program. This means a static variable is one that is not seen outside the function in which it is declared but remains available until the program terminates. The value of the variable persists between successive calls to a function. Declaration statement of such a variable inside a function is executed only once. The address of the variable can be passed to modules and functions which are not in the same C file. Next, explain bus error. It is a fatal error in the execution of a machine language instruction. It occurs because the processor detects an abnormal condition on its bus. The causes may be invalid address alignment, trying to access a physical address that does not correspond to any device, or other device specific hardware error. What are macros? What are their advantages? Macro is a name given to a block of C statements as a preprocessor directive. Being a preprocessor, the block of code is communicated to the compiler before entering into the actual code. A macro is defined with a preprocessor directive #define. The advantages of using macro are: it increases the execution speed of the program, it saves a lot of time that is spent by the compiler in invoking or calling the functions, and it reduces the length of the program. Explain function. When a large program is divided into smaller subprograms, each subprogram specifying the actions to be performed, these subprograms are called functions. Function supports only static and external storage classes. Next, explain built-in function. These are predefined functions supplied along with the compiler. They are also called library functions. Explain goto statement. Do you recommend its use in the program? Goto statement implements a local jump during program execution. It bypasses the code in your program and jumps to a predefined position. To enable it to do this, you need to provide the program a labeled position to jump to. This position has to be within the same function. It is not possible to implement goto between different functions. No, it is not a good programming practice to use goto. It causes a wastage of memory, leading to a large reduction in the efficiency of the program. What is an endless loop? An endless loop is one which keeps coming back to itself. It is also referred to as an infinite loop. It can happen on two accounts. One, in a case where it is designed to loop continuously until the condition within the loop is met. Once the condition is met, the break function takes the control out of the loop. 2. By mistake, the code is written in such a way that the control doesn't come out of the loop. Next, explain the meaning of segmentation violation. Segmentation violation usually occurs when a program attempts to access memory location which is not allowed to be accessed. This occurs due to either a protection fault or invalid page fault. Next, what is the difference between pass by reference and pass by value? Pass by value always invokes or calls the function or returns a value that is based on the value. This value is passed as a constant or a variable with a value. Pass by reference always invokes or calls the function by passing the address or a pointer to a memory location which contains the value. The memory location or pointer is populated with a value for the function to look at. The function can update the value available in the memory location by referencing to the pointer. What are register variables? What are their advantages? The variables of register type modifier will inform the compiler to store the variables in a register of CPU. The advantage of this type of modifier is access optimization and speed of program execution. The operations of these variables are comparably much faster. Next, can we specify variable field width in a scanf format string? Yes, we can specify variable field width in a scanf format string. This can be done by using %s control string. It reads a string of variable field width up to the first whitespace character. Explain memory leak. An unwanted increase in programs is referred to as memory leak in C language. It leads to an unintentional increase in consumption of the memory. Memory leakage may cause function of the system to stop and violation of operating system files. Next, which arithmetic operations can you perform on a void pointer? There are no arithmetic operations that can be performed on void pointer. This is because the compiler doesn't know the size of the objects pointed to. Tell us something about keyword auto. Automatic is a local variable with a local lifetime. It is declared by auto storage class specifier. This variable is visible only in the block in which it is declared. The value of uninitialized auto variables is undefined. The variables with auto storage class need to be initialized by storing them. or initial values need to be assigned to them in statements within the block. What is the purpose of register keyword? It is actually used to make the computation faster. The register keyword tells the compiler to store the variable onto the CPU register if space is available. However, this is a very old technique. Today's processors are smart enough to assign the registers themselves, and hence using the register keyword can actually slow down the operations if the usage is not proper. Next, explain the meaning of keyword extern in a function declaration. Extern modifier in a method declaration implies that the method is implemented externally. The program doesn't reserve any memory for a variable declared as extern. A variable that is required to be used in every file of the project is declared globally in one file and not inside any function. Extern declaration of that variable is added to a header file not included in all others. Next, what are the advantages of using linked list for tree construction? The main advantages of using linked list for tree construction are: unless the memory is full, overflow will never occur. Insertions and deletions are easier in comparison to arrays. Moving pointers is faster and easier in comparison to moving items when records are large. Next, what is break statement? A break statement causes the loop to terminate. The control then passes to the statement following the body of the loop. Explain spaghetti programming. Spaghetti programming refers to code that tend to get tangled and overlapped throughout the program. It makes a program complex and analyzing the code becomes difficult. It usually happens due to the lack of work experience on developers' part. Differentiate between the symbol single equal to and double equal to. The symbol single equal to is usually used in mathematical operations. It is used to assign a value to a given variable, while the symbol double equal to is a relational operator that is used to compare two values. What are actual arguments? When some functions are created and used to perform an action on some given values, some values need to be passed to them. The values that are passed into the called function are referred to as actual arguments. What is a new line escape sequence? A new line escape sequence is represented by the character /n. It is used to insert a new line while displaying the output data. To add more spaces, you can use more /n characters. Next, how many levels deep can include files be nested? As such, there is no limit to the number of levels of nested include files you can have, but your compiler might run out of stack space while trying to include an inordinately high number of files. This number depends on your hardware configuration and compiler. What are control structures? Control structures decide which instructions in the program should be executed. This implies that the program flow may not necessarily move from one statement to the next one. Some alternative portions may be executed depending on the conditional statements. Explain enumerated types. Enumerated types allow the programmers to use more meaningful words as values to a variable. Each item in the enumerated type variable is actually associated with a numeric code. For example, an enumerated type variable named months can be created. Its values can be January, February, March, April, going on to December.